as John McNeil, the president of Tesla, said, do you have to be that way? Probably not. There are a lot of successful people who are much kinder. Well, it's a release valve, just like video games and Polytopia and Elden Ring are release valves for him. And he does have an explosive sense of humor, as you know. And the weird thing is when he makes the abrupt transition from dark demon mode, and you're in a conference room, and he has really become upset about something. And not only there are dark vibes, but there's dark words emanating, and he's saying your resignation will be accepted if you don't, etc. And then something pops, and he pulls out his phone and pulls up a Monty Python skit, like the School of Silly Walks or whichever John Cleese it was. And he starts laughing again, and things break. So it's almost as if he has different modes, the emulation of human mode, the engineering mode, the dark and demon mode, and certainly there is the silly and giddy mode.
Yeah, you've actually opened the Elon book with quotes from Elon and from Steve Jobs. So Elon's quote is, to anyone I've offended, I just want to say, this is on SNL, I just want to say I reinvented electric cars and I'm sending people to Mars on a rocket ship. Did you also think I was going to be a chill, normal dude? And then the quote from Steve Jobs, of course, is, the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. So what do you think is the role of the old madness and genius? What do you think the role of crazy in this?
Well, first of all, let's both stipulate that Musk is crazy at times. And then let's figure out, and I try to do it through storytelling, not through highfalutin preaching, where that craziness works. Give me a story. Tell me an anecdote. Tell me where he's crazy. And, the almost final example, AI, but him shooting off Starship for the first time. In between an aborted countdown and the shoot off, he goes to Miami to an ad sales conference and meets Linda Yaccarino for the first time, makes her the CEO. There's a very impulsiveness to him. Then he flies back. They launch Starship. And you realize that there's a drive and there are demons and there's also craziness. And you sometimes want to pull those out. You want to take away his phone so he doesn't tweet at 3 a.m. You want to say, quit being so crazy. But then you realize there's a wonderful line of Shakespeare in Measure for Measure at the very end. He says, even the best are molded out of faults. And so you take the faults of Musk, for example, which includes a craziness that can be endearing, but also a craziness that's just like effing crazy, as well as this drive and demon mode. I don't know that you can take that strand out of the fabric and the fabric remains whole.
I wonder, sometimes it saddens me that we live in a society that doesn't celebrate even the darker aspects of crazy, in acknowledging that it all comes in one package. It's the man in the arena versus the critic.
And the man in the arena versus the regulator, and to make it more prosaic.
Well, let me ask about not just the crazy, but the cruelty. So you've written, when reporting on Steve Jobs, Woz told you that the big question to ask was, did he have to be so mean, so rough and cruel, so drama addicted? What is this answer for Steve Jobs? Did he have to be so cruel?
For Jobs, I asked Woz at the end of my reporting, because that's what he said at the beginning. We're doing the launch of, I think, the iPad 2, it may have been. Steve is emaciated because, he's been sick. And so I say to Woz, what's the answer to your question? And he said, well, if I had been running Apple, I would have been nicer to everybody. Everybody got stock options. We've been like a family. And then I don't know if you know Woz, we was like a teddy bear. He paused, he smiled, and he said, but if I had been running Apple, I don't think we would have done the Macintosh or the iPhone. So, yeah, you have to sometimes be rough. And Jobs said the same thing that Musk said to me, which is he said, people like you love wearing velvet gloves. Now, I don't know that I've worn velvet gloves often, but you like people to like you. You like to sweet talk things. You sugarcoat things. He says, I'm just a working class kid, and I don't have that luxury. If something sucks, I got to tell people it sucks, or I got a team of B players. Well, Musk is that way as well. And it gets back to what I said earlier, which is, yeah, I probably would wear velvet gloves if I could find them at my haberdasher. And I do try to sugarcoat things. But when I was running CNN, it needed to be reshaped. It needed to be broken. It needed to have certain things blown up. And I didn't do it, so bad on me. But it made me realize, okay, I'll just write about the people who can do it.
Well, that thing of saying, I think probably both of them, but Elon certainly saying things like that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Mm-hmm. By the way, I've heard Jeff Bezos say that. I've heard Bill Gates say that. I've heard Steve Jobs say it. I've heard Steve Jobs say it about a smoothie. They were making it a Whole Foods or something. I mean, people, they use the word stupid really often.
Yeah.
And you know who else used it? Elon Musk. He kept making Elon stand in front of him and saying, that's the stupidest thing. You're the stupidest person. You'll never amount to anything. I don't know, as John McNeil, the president of Tesla, said, do you have to be that way? Probably not. There are a lot of successful people who are much kinder, but it's sometimes necessary to be much more brutal and brutally honest, I would say, than people like who win Boss of the Year trophies.